Hello, this is Marc in this short informative video as an update from the last video, which was a month and a half ago, where I said there'd take a few odd steps had to be completed before we could file, and those are now done. It took 6 weeks. And a lot has happened since then. The plan that had a couple of dozen filings now have over 200 filings. And as of this weekend, or a couple of days ago, the federal courts came down with a ruling saying that all MMAR growers who have filed can grow their own pot. And all those who have not applied for a federal court ruling cannot grow pot under the MMPR program. And that's such a slippery, sliding, double-edged sword that it needs a report. Okay. Basically, it's the federal courts are contracted by the Harper government, and they're technically an international court, either in NATO or NAFTA or the American federal court system. Okay, if you look on S55 of the CDSA, it says there right at the beginning, it's this new MMPR program is there to facilitate the importing and exporting and regulating of this new cannabis industry through the federal courts. Now, the federal courts open up a giant market called the United States. So I am certain that no matter what I do, there will still be people who want an open access to this huge market called the United States. So I'm not saying shit can the MMPR program, but by law, okay, we, the Marijuana Party of Canada, have a unique position that the Harper government has instituted a 5% tax. Federal tax, and it's not GST. It's a partisan tax, and we're filing documents. Well, we actually did a month and a half ago, unofficially, and it made authorities reeling. Okay, one, if the Harper government can charge a 5% tax that destroys our party's right to be ruled under the rule of law, then that means we can now create a tax to protect our beliefs by offering it to the city and provinces to protect us. Okay? Very fundamental. And I pointed out that anyone who cares to be ruled under the federal court, this new federal marijuana jurisdiction, retail distribution system for pot for the North America, then gladly join the MMPR program. But, if you join that club, then you're going to have to live with their rules. And exactly as to the ruling they gave this weekend, people who only grow their own pot have not been taken, that right has not been taken away from them until the court rulings. But this new MMPR program is there to facilitate the introduction of a regulated industry. And under no circumstances is anyone given the right to sell any of their excess, because that will be covered as tax evasion shortly, and it won't be governed under international jurisdictions. And you ask for it because you want to participate in this bigger market called the United States. Great. It's a huge market. It's 100 times or 10 times bigger than Canada's market. And I wish you the best of luck, but you're going to have to follow international regulations of irradiating your pot, doing it's a millionaire's club, and it'll be taken over by the pharmaceutical industry shortly after its inception, because the price tag to operate will be, and you're building yourself in for these $400, $500, $600 ounces, which I understand is pretty common in Canada, but in Vancouver, anyone can get a real good ounce of pot for under $200. Okay, $150 in some places, real good quality pot. So now we want to preserve our Supreme Court rulings, and we, the Marijuana Party, can do that. Okay, and in the last month, we've done several things while this storm is brewing, and one is we filed with Elections Canada. Actually, one of our representatives in Ottawa filed with Elections Canada and asked for a ruling on who this governor and council is under S55 of the CDSA. And they all said it's this Mr. Johnson, Governor General Johnson. And so we went to the website and we asked them questions, because it's a lie. Well, it's the truth, but it's a lie. Okay, the Governor General and Council doesn't list in his list of things that he's the Governor and Council. The governor, that's another paper person. Okay, and when you go to the Governor and Council, it says that it's this guy. But if you filed papers against this guy, it would come back, oh, wrong jurisdiction. You didn't serve the right guy, and now you're banned from doing it because it's frivolous and vexatious. You're not well prepared. So we asked them to outline exactly who the Governor and Council is, and more specifically, who is the Solicitor, the Solicitor General in charge of emergency preparedness of Section 55(2), because there happens to be one who's under the jurisdiction of Parliament. There's one in the jurisdiction of BC and Ontario, and all the provinces have a Solicitor General. But there's also one of those in the United States, or 2 or 3 or 10. Now, who is the Solicitor General who he is empowering to protect? And that's a very valid question to ask, okay? And they've been stonewalling that question, okay? And they have to answer it, because we're being affected, and we want to drop papers against the attorney, the Governor and Council. And until we have the right authority with the right address and the right place to post, we can't serve. We put this in letter format. We hand served it to the Chief of Elections Canada, and he acted like he never got it. So we served it again, and we're now waiting for an answer for this. And we'll press against the Chief Electoral Officer for obstruction of justice if he doesn't give us the correct information as to where and who are the person or persons who we have to file, who hold the entity of Governor and Council. Plain and simple, we have to have a name to file against. Now, we can file on other ways, but this we had to pursue. Now, 2, okay, with the city. I've been setting them up for this for a while, and I really didn't push on this until my position was more solid to act, which took us 6 weeks. And basically, I approached the city, and I got the answer that I expected. Okay, I went there and said, I'm not spending $50,000 to $100,000 setting up a restaurant without having a certainty that I don't have an occupational license. And I told them, you're not treating me with special disrespect. No, you're treating all the clubs with this same contempt of using one excuse, okay? And I nailed them on the excuse, and I was ready for the excuse. And basically, I came to them and said, I'm operating out of my home, out of my headquarters, my kitchen, and technically, you have no authority to enter there. But if you want to, I'll invite you in to show you that I'm food safe and everything like this. And I filed for an occupational license for my home business. And under the rules and regulations of this home business license, I wrote it out and filled it out thoughtfully and carefully, and the, the, the this lady in charge in licensing read it and openly said, "Mr. Boyer, I don't know how we can stop you from getting an occupational license or permit," which is the first step towards legalizing marijuana. And they tried their best to stop it with the excuse of, "Mr. Boyer, we can't give a license for criminal activity." And I was ready for that. And I went, "Excuse me, I need that. I have a right to do criminal activities." And that boils down to a 2002 court ruling. And I started arguing. They said, "Mr. Boyer, you have to talk to that. You have to discuss that with the legal department." Legal department's been avoiding me for 4 months, 5 months, on one issue of this getting a permit to run a business. So I went to Burma, to the license department. They says, "We don't want to talk to you." I went, "Sorry." And I showed the lady's card and I went, "This director over in licensing sent me here to talk to you. So it's not me wanting to talk to you. I'm here at the request of this lady, and she says you need to talk to me." Okay? So that got me in a meeting real quick. Okay? And the guy came out and we started talking, and he used the line that we are doing criminal activity. And it's the line they've used, and I came to him and says, "It's the line you've used on at least a dozen clubs that I know in this town who have tried to get legitimate permits to operate a business. And the city won't do it under the line of, it's an illegal activity and we can't license anything to do with illegal activities." Which you can do illegal activities under the Societies Act with special rules and regulations, but check into it. There isn't a society out there that has a permit either. Okay? It's a quirk in law. It's to allow fringe things to happen to keep the natives from revolting. Okay? It goes back to the very function of the Societies Act. Now, I came to them and and I pointed out that in 2002 or 3, somewhere around there, the Chrétien government brought up the the Marijuana Party to the Supreme Court of Canada, saying that we were the criminal party of Canada because marijuana was a crime. Therefore, we promoting criminal activity means we should be barred and taken out of the Elections Act because we're the criminal party, okay? Because we're called marijuana, okay? And the Supreme Court of Canada came down very hard on that, saying that, the empire and the common law, like of Canada and England and all sorts of colonies has a fine tradition of political parties rising in order to get a voice and protect their beliefs. And the very nature, and then they said a one-issue party can't have any, and they said, no, again, you can't do it because, and they said specifically that political activities to protect their beliefs is exactly what the Elections Act empowers an EDA to do. So I came to the city lawyer and told him that, "Excuse me, you can't use that excuse of it's an illegal activity because I'm doing something to make it legal." So that excuse can be used on everybody who is not a member of our electoral district or the Marijuana Party, but it can't be used on us because the Supreme Court of Canada says we have a legitimate function to promote and protect illegal activities. Isn't that cool? And it stopped him in his feet. He didn't know what to say. Okay? His advice was, and they talked about it, they talked about it when I'm not there, and he said, go back to the building department and file for a license. We will look at the license and we'll rule. Okay? So I went back to licensing and I filled out this business license application, okay? And this general application, and it lists, I put me, and it says here, covered under Incorporation, BC Incorporated Company. and I striggled out the BC and I put Federal Elections Act Incorporated Company, and then I put Vancouver Quadra Marijuana, that VQMP, which is short for Vancouver Quadra Marijuana Party Electoral District Association. Okay? All the forms now have VQMP, and that's a natural person under the Elections Act. Okay? And they said, when do you want it? Now. You want it in writing? Yes. Okay? And I emailed yes. And then I read it over, and they said, can I fill this out right now? I'm ready to fill it out. She wanted me to bring it back after the weekend. But I said, oh, no, I don't want that. So then, bottom line is, she looked it over, and I'm doing this out of my business, my home, which is also my Electoral District Association, which also is a nice industrial kitchen to make my cookies and everything like this. And these rules and regulations for a home-based business are really simple. There's 8, 9 points or 10 points, and absolutely every one of them I presently operate under. I don't have people over at my there's beautiful rules, okay, for operating a home business. And it says there, its primary function is to do the books. And then do crafts. You're allowed to operate the books and do crafts, and don't sell anything from your premises. And I said, that's what I do. And they said, describe in detail the nature of your business and intent to use of the premises. Okay, primary and secondary uses. And I put the collecting and remitting of sales tax for goods and services, so that through private and co-op agents can contract with VQMP and in this way offer a sales tax on goods and services to the city and province in order to protect our right to be protected as being lawful. Now, that exactly, and she's going, what are you, and she went, and I said, Mr. Boyer, and then secondary effect, retail food. Isn't that cool? She just put retail food. Okay, now, and I said, well, the primary function of us is to have agents and private and co-op agents and administer the taxes for them, and that's a $500,000 business doing that for all the compassion clubs, and that's an office in our place. Okay, we only need a small office and a computer to do that. And the secondary one is that I do my baking in there, and that's exactly what it says. I can do the crafts. And then I pointed out that with the sales tax, okay, it's ironclad because it makes it a political activity. I said, I just don't want to sell cookies. Okay, I want to sell cookies and remit a sales tax to you, and that makes it political. It's business, but that's what political parties are supposed to do. And she looked at this and she didn't know how to get around it, which was really cool. So basically, she said, I don't know how to get around this, of giving you an occupational license. And as soon as I get an occupational license, then I can get a permit for my little cart, and we'll make that another video because this one's getting long. But step one toward having the next thing, which is my occupational licenses and my permit to operate my vending cart for selling smoothies and popsicles and everything else, are going to happen. And as I said to the city, it says, I'm doing exactly what I would have done with my restaurant, but I'm not risking $50,000, $100,000. The cart cost me $300 to set up and make. And I'll have probably $400 or $500 worth of product on it, and I'm not selling it at my house. I'm taking it out. Exactly what a residential permit allows you to do. Isn't that cool? And the lady looked at me and said, I have no idea how I can stop this from happening. But she said it with a smile. Isn't that cool? And basically, I'll carry on next week, because now that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted on all the other little things we've done, we're prepared and filing real soon, okay, and dropping documents on everybody. Isn't that cool? And basically, we're saying that in Canada, it's our duty to show people that we can, that edibles are legal. My cart is not going to sell smokables because that they can do legally out of the Compassion Club. But edibles are no longer under control of the CDSA, and that means it's a herbal remedy. And that means under the Elections Act, I can take people who are members and make them members of my party and sell them cookies. I can't sell them pot. My personal business can sell them cookies. And that's anyone who can vote. So I'm going to be selling smoothies, and basically I explained to him, I says, how on earth can I express to people that it's legal to sell cookies to any responsible adult who can vote in Canada? How can I do that without doing it? And and he says, if it wasn't for the fact that I was charging tax, that would be a crime. And or not, they could challenge it. But because I'm remitting a tax as a social experiment, and the crafted wording that I'm using to distribute the cookies, basically everyone is being prescribed a homeopathic or a natural prescription to buy my cookies. It's quite good. Check out the paperwork. I'll be posting several things in the next few days. And basically, I'm trying to legalize selling, the growing, and the distribution of cannabis by paying a sales tax, which we can, in order to protect our beliefs. And as I said to the city, it says here, I'm going to collect these taxes, and then I'm going to offer them to you. And if you don't take them, that's your problem. But as long as I'm collecting them and trying to give them to you, well, we've got a hot potato. And, basically I'm running for council this fall. And I want the city councilors and mayor to address why they don't want $15-20 million worth of revenue from pot sales in Vancouver. Why they don't want to protect our clubs by allowing us to remit these taxes to them and take them. It's a politically so hot an issue. Basically, the only thing we can't do through an electoral district is sell it to the Americans. Okay? And we can live with that. Okay? Those who want to sell to Americans, join the MMPR program. Those who don't want to join have irradiated pot and the price of pot that they have to charge because of all these rules and regulations, and millionaires don't ever do anything for nothing, okay? So they'll have to compete for us on local business. But frankly, they got lots of business in the States. There's 10 times the market in the States, and ask any one of these MMPR growers, the number one market they want is the American market, because that's why they set up the program. But in the meantime, we're doing our best not to screw all the MMAR growers who are going to be told, oh yes, you can grow your own pot. Just don't sell a single seed or a stem or a stalk to anyone, because we'll slap you in jail for tax evasion. And because you're just not going to be able to afford the entry fee into how to pay taxes. It's a sad state of affairs, and we're doing our best to fight it. And just watch, we'll be doing paperwork a lot. Thank you very much.